Please give it up for, who's that, Avani? Avani. Avani.
My name is Avani. I'm a senior in design. For my Zenith, I've never sewn or like made clothing before, and that was something that always kind of intrigued me. So I decided to make an Indian top. There's this concept called Indo-Western, which is kind of combines really like formal Indian clothing that has lots of like embroidery and detail with like Western clothing that's kind of more comfy and like simple. So these were some of my inspiration. It was just kind of like a formal top with like just paired with jeans or something more casual. So my materials, sewing machine, which I didn't have, but thankfully Miss P had one. And then sewing pattern, which I got off of Etsy. And there were some issues with that I'll go over. Thread that matches with like whatever fabric you got. For mine, I added like a lace border to make it more kind of Indian. And then pins and scissors. So these were some process photos. That was the, okay, well that's the pattern. You pin it into it and then you cut the pieces out. And then that was me stitching it. So some of the issues were, so with the pattern, it usually comes with a set of like instructions, like, oh, this piece is paired with that piece. But on the Etsy like reviews, it did say the instructions were very clear and simple, but when I bought the pattern, it just came with the pattern itself and no instructions. And as someone who hasn't sewn before, that was quite challenging. So I kind of had to figure a lot of that out on my own, which ended up, I had to spend more time on like the actual just making the shirt instead of the embroidery, which if I had more time, I definitely would have spent on the embroidery, making it look like detailed and more pretty. And then with the sewing machine itself, the bobbin thread kept bunching up. So on my like test pattern, it kept looking like that, which if I flipped it over, it would have looked like completely whack if I did on the actual piece. And then this was the pattern. So I kind of just had to figure out which piece went together with each other on its own. And the like sewing pattern didn't come with directions with like what sizing it was and like which lines aligned with the other, which was the main challenge. But yeah, first step, I got the materials. I discovered sewing is quite the costly thing if you don't already have the materials. And then you start cutting out from the pattern and sewing together, and assembling the pieces definitely took the longest, and the lace was honestly the most simple part. This is my final result. I had my grandma try it on. It was a bit rough. I think if I had more time, I would have added more like lace and detail. But yeah. Any questions?
So like, how did you end up figuring out what part goes with what? Did you just like experiment on?
So during like kind of last week when we were supposed to be Zenith, so Miss P definitely helped me a lot because she's like sewn, so she was like 14, I think she said. But even she couldn't really figure it out. So I went to the like, place where I bought the materials, and she took like one look at the pattern, and she was like, this goes here, and made me like a whole set of directions. So I quickly finished that.
It's not a question, but since I was doing sewing too, the bobbin was so annoying. It kept, like, the entire back of my shirt was just completely, like, it didn't look like it was straight sewn, even though it was. It was everywhere. It was terrible.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the challenges. For like the machine I was using, I had to like hand line the bobbin, which took a long time and often like didn't work when I actually did do it.
So how did you figure out, what was the solution for the bunching up of the bobbin stuff?
I had to like unwind it and rewind it a lot to make sure there was no like part where it was like loose, because the needle has to be like, the thread has to be completely tense in order for it to actually like sew.
Were you using our machine?
I think it was Sofa's machine.
Oh, because on our machine we have an automatic bobbin creator thing.
Yeah, there was one on Sofa's machine too, but like it just wouldn't thread the bobbin properly.
Do you think that you would make like more clothes like in this style, or like you think that you would like continue this process, or?
Definitely. I just completely make sure the pattern had instructions.
and probably being on like a time crunch.
Yeah. Sure.
Like, what did your like parents, like mom and your grandma think of like your original idea and like the outcome?
Well, I mean, neither of them know how to like sew or ever have like made clothing before, so they were like pretty impressed. But I feel like I could have, if I had more time, I could have made it like fit better or like added like buttons or hooks to like make it adjustable or something. Tim?
Do you think you're gonna do this again in the future?
Maybe
You're like
some,
one and done.
maybe something a bit less complex because I went to the store to like get my get like directions for like how do I put it together, and they were pretty surprised to hear that like something like this was like my first project, because they were just like, oh yeah, like I just made up just, like a pillowcase for my first project or something like that. So I was like, okay.